And welcome to episode 105 of the podcast. In this week's episode, we have some advice for business owners about going on holidays without feeling guilty. We have some listeners' questions answered, and in the history section, we talk about my absolute pet hate when it comes to power tools. This and some more in this week's episode. But first of all, here's my friend Sean to tell you a bit more about the podcast. Are you a new person coming into plumbing and heating? Are you a homeowner that likes a bit of DIY? Or are you a business owner and want a bit more knowledge before you make some decisions on your plumbing and heating? Stay tuned to the podcast and hopefully we'll be able to help you out with some of your questions. And welcome back, and thank you very much indeed for listening. Got the headphones off. We've had some bit of technical issues here with the audio, so just making sure it's all going to come out correctly first time without having doing loads of retakes on it, which is actually pretty draining sometimes. So I've been on holiday, and there's a bit of a birthday thing, and the family went, and a few friends as well. We went to a place called Malta, which is a beautiful island in the Mediterranean, and if you've never been, I'd highly, highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, slow-paced island. However, we decided to go and didn't check the schedule of the local house garage music festival for all the 18 to 22-year-olds. So on the plane out the other week was actually the youngest on the plane. It was like Love Island, and I've never even seen it, but I guess that's what it was like. So while I was away, I did actually miss doing a show. I took my little selfie stick. I was going to do one from the balcony and have a bit of a chat about a few bits and pieces. But while I was away, I went scuba diving, had a wonderful time. But I did feel a bit unwell after doing so. I think I might have drunk too much seawater. It was a little bit choppy as I was coming back in, so I was unable to do it. So unfortunately, I've missed one, so it's not going to be complete unless I'll slip in an extra one at some point, just to sort of fill it up so we keep this schedule on for the exact weeks and the exact episodes. But hey ho, I do try my best. I'm only just a simple person, really. So I want to talk about business owners, because this is something that for me personally has got easier as time has gone on. And my early days when I started running my own businesses, sort of around the 2003, 2004, when I first started out, this was a massive problem for me going on holiday. You know, and you're going on holiday with your family in most cases, and I just had a massive mental block with that of things aren't working, things aren't running, customers are going to try and ring me and then ring someone else, or do I just have my phone on and then try and take bookings and have a diary with me at the same time, and neglecting that family time, and then sort of just all getting a bit muddy and a bit murky without that sort of the clean cut between the two. You know, if you're PAYE and you go on holiday, if you've got some sort of responsibility, you might still have your phone on you. But most people, when they go on holiday and they're PAYE, that's it. Their phone never rings and they can get their feet up and they can proper turn off. But us business owners, we're wired a little bit quirky. We're wired a little bit different. I was still checking in with the office and the office teams back here in Blighty. There was a few little bits and pieces I sort of gave my sort of decisions on for Anne and Kelly in the office to sort of like implement and just take that forward. There we are. That's the decision made and done, dusted. I'm not a big dweller on things. If it's quite a small problem or small decision to make, that's it. Like a couple of seconds and I've done it. There it is. That's the reasons why. That's me thinking, done and dusted. Let's crack on. If it's a bit of a bigger thing, I'll probably sit back in the chair and have a think about it with a cup of tea. But most things that we come across here, little bits and pieces, we can sort of just make a decision really, really quickly and turn on it and get it done. So as a business owner, your brain is constantly processing all the stuff we have. We have staff issues, customer problems, cash flows, deadlines, quotes, emails, and what if situation. And after months of that, and your thinking can become reactive instead of creative, and you're working in the business so much that you stop thinking clearly about the business. And that's so important that we have this time away and we have that little bit of a reset. And I had that when you're at 32 meters deep and you're scuba diving around a vessel. You can't be thinking about cash flow, business. You can't be thinking about, because you need to stay alive. And it's a lovely way. I do a bit of road motorbiking as well. And when you're doing those sort of things, that gives you that massive escape of the mind from it all for that period of time, because you need to concentrate on staying alive and getting back to the surface, or getting to that place, that destination, and parking a bike up. So one of the best investments a business owner can make is stepping away for a few days. When you're constantly in the day-to-day pressure of running a business, your head gets fogged up. The holiday gives you that brain chance to reset, clear the noise, come back sharper, calmer, and often with better business ideas than before. Taking a break isn't being lazy, it's about protecting your long-term performance. So I really wanted to get that across, guys, because as my business journey has changed, and we've got a bit of a team here at Gaslec, and we're growing, and it's all going in the right direction, putting those little management systems and processes in place where the team can make the decisions and are empowered to do so. And they're confident that we're all thinking along exactly the same lines. And that's really, really important. And when you can get to that place, actually now I can go on holiday, I have my phone on, but I'm not anxiously looking all the time at this and all the time at that. You know, if there's a general question, text it to me. If there's a big problem, give me a ring and I'll answer it, because I won't be looking at my phone all the time. And that's got better with time as we've built stuff up. So, you know, I found myself, as I do every holiday, always looking at like taps and valves all week long. And I also look at different businesses and how I think I could improve them. So in hospitality, someone standing at the doorway, greeting and showing people to the tables. The biggest sales trick of all is the special boards that are added to the menu that they put down on the table. The psychology is powerful. It's saying there's a limited amount, and once it's gone, it's gone. And usually these will have a higher GP as well, which is gross profit. And it's all a great way that businesses can stay in profit and that they're open the following year, especially in these tourist hotspots. So, business owners out there, what sort of payments do you give to your clients? What are the options that you give to them? So, and what options when you go out shopping do you expect for yourselves as well? What do you expect? So make the system as easily as possible. Remove as much friction as you can. Here at Gaslec, we have some older clients and they're paying a check and they still feel confident on writing a check out, and that's the way they pay them. And on the banking app, well, I bank with Lloyd's Business. I can take a photo of it, and then that's like putting it in the bank, as it were, give it 3 days and it clears. And, you know, we've never had a problem here at Gaslec with a bouncy check, because these are existing clients that we already have. But we've also started just this year in 2026. Well, what we was doing, actually, we had some up in the little card terminals, and we had the ones that had the 4G SIM in it with the little printer. And we had them in all the vans, and we had one in the office. But that didn't allow us, that was only face to face, and that didn't allow us to take card payments over the telephone. So when I was talking to the office team, and this come up called CardNet with Lloyds Bank, it's called a virtual terminal. And I said, like, how many phone calls do we actually get in from customers that we've done a job for, or we're going to go and do a job for, and they want to pay? How can we accept that money? Oh, it was only sort of 1 a month, 2 a year, and all those sort of numbers, blah, blah. I thought, no, I'm doing it. So I signed up for it, and I think we're probably doing maybe 1 or 2 a day, which is, most people pay on bank transfer. But we are now seeing, because we've got that door open and we can take the payment on the telephone. And there are different risks with taking it on the phone rather than taking it in person, the chargebacks, and yes, there is. But if you're working in somebody's house and you know them and you're in there and you're stroking their dog and you've met them and they say, I've got a card here, or my husband's at work, can he pay on the telephone? It's a little bit different for what we do. It's not mail order where you're sending out products, they're paying on the telephone and you're getting chargebacks for, it's broken, it's fraud, it didn't arrive and all these other bits. But it's a bit different for us here. So at the moment, we've not had any sort of chargebacks at all, and it's been really, really, really good with the virtual terminal. Some people will still want to pay in cash, which is a bit of a problem, but then we use the petty cash to go down Morrison's to buy the tea and coffee. So we can sort of, rather than put it in the bank, well, what banks are there? Put it in the post office. That sort of takes care of that cash side that we do get a little bit of in the petty cash for taking care of the bits and pieces in the office. And of course, most people pay on bank transfer, but you need to have all of those options open to your customers. They can pay on a check, they can pay cash, they can do bank transfer, they can pay card there and then, or if their son or daughter, if they're a little bit older, wants to pay on the telephone on behalf, we can accept that as well. And really think about that as you start to grow your business out there, guys. So the history section, my pet hate. If you know me, you know exactly what my pet hate is. And my pet hate started probably about 20 years ago when we first come across them. And I absolutely hate them. And they are impact drivers. So there was a bit of a story of someone that was doing a bit of work together, and they used an impact driver to drive in a 16mm screw into a kitchen door hinge, just in the little kitchen doors, and it rounded it all out, and all of the thread went on the chipboard because it was so delicate, and I ended up having to buy a new door, and that's where my hate of them first started, apart from all the racket and the noise, and that's where it all first started. And the person, are still good pals now, and that person, Jamie, you know who you are, that did that. So in 1932, the first practical pneumatic impact wrench was invented by Robert H. Pott. In the 1930s and 40s, pneumatic impacts were largely adopted for the industrial work, including the building of the Empire State Building. In the 1960s, the first electric-driven impact drills were developed in Germany using an internal cam mechanism. And in 1984, Hitachi Power Tools introduced the first cordless impact driver. And in the early 90s, companies like Milwaukee, DeWalt, Makita started expanding their cordless tools with high torque. So it's actually quite a short thing that less than 100 years ago when we started in the 1930s using air tools. Obviously, that's probably one of the safest, and they still use them in garages now, don't they, air tools? There's no sparks with it. It's relatively easy. Don't have to charge it up because the airline goes onto the bottom. So there's lots of pros to go along with using air tools, and that's how they first come around. But yeah, so my pet hate, impact drivers. So that's the history of those. So we have some listeners' questions. So we had an email in coming saying, my heating is off. Now the warmer weather's come along, I've got one radiator that keeps warming up. So typically, I've got no history. Is that a combination boiler, a sealed system, open vented? I'm not sure, but I want to run through how this works. So this is a 3-port valve. So I've took this apart. So we have here, I'm not sure if you can see it, we have the AB that comes up here. So this will come from the pump on your gravity system, or it could be sealed, but it comes in from here and then will come out A or B. Now, A is usually, the way I remember it is A for hot water going to the air, going to the radiators to warm up the air. And the B goes off to the bath or the hot water side of things. And that's how I remember which way around. A little bit simple, I know, but that's how I do remember these. How do these work? And if you've never seen one being taken apart before, I'll show you. And hopefully you can see this on the video okay. Right, so on top of here will usually be the motor that sits on the top. And when whether you want hot water or whether you want heating or hot water off, or whatever the combination that you're requiring for the system, the motor will move and the actuator will then spin the spindle. So what is inside? So inside we have a ball. So when this motor moves, basically it turns this ball. And you can see it there, and it moves backwards and forwards. Now, what can happen is this ball, so we've got a couple of things that could be. So we can have problems where the synchro motor or the gearing inside the motor starts to fail, and then that then doesn't have enough power or energy to move the ball. But the most common thing is, being honest, is a dirty water, a dirty heating system. And this ball here gets covered in absolute rubbish. And when the dirty ball tries to make a seal inside this body here, and it's a bit difficult to see, it will come through, so the water comes through the bottom here, and it will block off this waterway or block off that with the ball moving left and right, or into the centre to go and do both. So if you can imagine, and water comes through, we've got a bit of pressure coming through the hot water coil on the B for bath, and then what happens is some water starts creeping through this alpha, which is going off to the radiator and the heating system. So as it starts creeping through, typically it'll be the closest radiator. You start getting a little bit of the warm water coming through and then passing through the radiator and then returning back. Now, that could be down to a pressure issue. In other words, there's too much pressure, or there may be a gate valve restricting the flow on the hot water side that's closed too hard, and the pressure's trying to go somewhere, so it starts creeping down. Or it's a dirty system, and this ball is absolutely caked up with rubbish. Now, the problem is we can then say, right, okay, what we'll do is we'll take this little plate off, clean the ball up and put it back on, which is a great idea. But the problem is you cannot buy these rubber seals because these rubber seals generally will be made by that manufacturer for this little batch, and you try and get an exact seal. So as soon as you take these things off, this one's brand new, there is a huge risk you will not get that to seal up again and start leaking. So generally speaking, what we'll do is we'll change the whole body over in that sense, because we've got to drain down the water. There's no valves either side to turn these things off, certainly if it's an open vented system. If it's a sealed system, we can take the pressure out and we can manage a bit of a drop of water while we get the thing out and get it done again. But on a gravity system, we've got to start draining the water, so that takes a bit of time onto there. But that's the biggest reason why we have on gravity or 3-port systems, or Y plans as they're known, is that we get the radiator start heating because we have the hot water on. And where we've got the hot water on, it may be on for half an hour to an hour just to sort of boost up the hot water inside the cylinder, and then we're getting this creepage coming through and we start to realise it. So in the short term, what you can do is just turn the radiator valve off to the one that's warming up, but it will push it further down and you might find it start going to another one. And if you don't get it sorted, then what happens is the valve that you've turned off will then stick all summer. Come to the winter, you come to turn it back on and it's stuck and it won't actually turn on. So just a quick one as well on these 3 ports and the 2 ports. This is actually a different thread pitch to a normal nut. So it uses the standard 22 olive on this one. They do come in 28s, but this one's a 22. But the actual thread pitch of a standard nut won't actually fit. And I've actually had it where we're putting a new 3-port in, and even the old nut off of another one won't fit the thread pitch of a new one. So it's really important that if you're changing over a 3-port, make sure you change over the nuts and olives as well. Don't be lazy and just get it done. Just so much easier. It saves you all that grief of actually trying to fire it up later on and then fill the system up and it starts dripping away. And then you're wishing that you just spent that extra couple of minutes getting that done. And I know it's not that easy. Oh, another quick thing before we end this topic is on the B for bath. If you do have the 3 ports, the Y plans, is that try and hold this pipe as far away as possible when you've got the hot water demand on to see if you can feel it warming. If you start to feel it warming, then you know it's creeping through. Obviously, all winter long you don't notice it because you've got the heating on and the hot water and the whole thing together. Just sort of blends in, but you really notice it when you're in the summer times when you're then turning on the hot water only. So hopefully that answers your question there, guys. So it's apprentice time at the moment, and we're getting so many emails and social media posts about the younger people are coming towards the end of their school term. They're coming up to the age of 16. they got the option of further education or an apprenticeship. So, and that's then when you're starting to see people ringing up, emailing, sending in letters, etc., and making phone calls as well about apprenticeships. So I did do a podcast on some apprenticeship sort of facts and figures and my sort of opinions on the current apprenticeship system that we're running here in the UK, and that was a few episodes ago. So you can have a look through the back catalogue and you'll find that one titled as apprenticeships. But one of the big things is that there was a Facebook post being put up, and I commented on it that it was it was by a female, so I presume it's his mum. And I presume, it was a son, and she was like, "Oh, my son wants a plumbing apprenticeship. He works really hard. He's confident. He's this, that, and the next thing. I wish him all the best. Genuinely do." But she was posting on his behalf because he doesn't have a Facebook account. So my comment was, why hasn't he got a Facebook account? If he wants something so wants this career in the plumbing and heating industry, which is a fantastic career, surely you'd spend that time, create a Meta Facebook account, just to, even if you don't want to use it for anything else, but just to set that up, just to go on and then see if you can apply for a job, see if you can find a company to work for, which could set you up for the rest of your life. And then I've got all these messages pinging back for these different people jumping on the bandwagon with it all. And the whole point of what I was trying to get across was completely lost. It's that if you want to stand out. We had one about 2 weeks ago, and I took the phone call, and it was a young lad rung me up, said, "Do you have any apprenticeships?" And I live local, X, Y, and Z. And I said, "Unfortunately not. However, what I will want to say to you is, you've taken a step more than others. We got mums on Facebook asking for their kids. And I get it. As a parent myself, you want to do your best for your children, but they need to take that little bit of initiative. We get emails, generic emails coming in. No one's ever said on an email, I'm looking at an apprenticeship. I've looked at your company. I've looked at your social media. I've looked at your videos. I've watched your podcast. And I like the thing that you said the other week on heat exchangers or on 3-port valves or whatever it'll be, and just add to, they've made a bit of an inquiry. They've done a little bit of research. You're down in Knight Road in Strood at Gaslec Towers, I only live 3 minutes walk away, or you're just around the corner from Morrison's. I know where that is. What that little bit of a touch of, I've done a little bit more than just copy paste, send, that sort of thing. And we had this young person ring me up, and I took the phone call, and I said, carry on what you're doing. Don't get disheartened, because you making a telephone call for you puts you in the 1% of all the people out there trying to do the same as you, because all they're doing is just doing the standard boring stuff. And I gave them a few pointers on the phone. I pointed them to my little podcast episode on it as well. So be different in a very usual world, and you'll stand out. So the last question is, should I turn off my water before I go on holiday? So, which is ironic, because I've been away for a week on holiday in Malta and got myself a bit of a tan as well. So there was a job that I did years ago. It was a friend of mine at the time. He was a bit of a handyman, and there was a lady that went on holiday to Australia to go and see her. I think one of her children had moved out there, and she went out for months. And in her home insurance, it's stipulated you can only be out of the country for a certain amount of time. And I think she was back within that time. It's something like 3 months or something. And if you've got a vacant property for more than their set amount of time for the insurance company states, then the water's all got to be drained out of the tanks. And we've done a few jobs like that as well, where we drained out the water tanks, drained out the heating system completely, turned off the hot and the cold, and drained everything out. But she was just within the time, and she actually got a phone call in Australia saying there's water coming down her garden path. The whole bungalow had filled up with water, and it then made its way out the back door from a burst water pipe up in the loft, or a split water tank, or whatever it was at the time. And the whole place was full up. And I can't even remember what I popped back there for, but over in Ice did rise it was. So my advice is, Yeah, there's no harm in it. If no one's going to be there to turn off the cold main supply. If you've got a gravity hot water system, gravity hot water system, and you've got a big tank up in the loft, you've got a couple of options on what to do. So you could turn your stopcock off so the ball valve would stop filling it up, and then open up your hot water tap until the hot water stopped. And then you've got no real body of water up in the loft sitting up there that could, certainly if you're going away in the winter time, start to freeze or split or cause you any issues in that sense. If the heating tank sort of split on that side, I'd always say if you're going away in the winter, leave your heating on low just overnight, just to keep that frost off, keep the house and the envelope of the building nice and warm, to stop those freezing pipes. So that'll be, but obviously we're in the spring now, coming into the summer. So obviously that's not going to be an issue. But if you're going on holiday, yes, I'd recommend turn the water off if no one's in your house. But just remember, when you get home, you've got to turn it back on again. So that wraps up another episode of the podcast. And thank you very much indeed for listening, guys. If we can help out with any of your domestic or commercial plumbing, heating or air conditioning, send us an email at Gaslec office@gaslec.net. If you want to email the show and ask me any questions at all, or you have any suggestions, email us at podcast@gaslec.net, and that'll come straight through to me here as well. You have a fantastic week, and I wish you all the best. Take care. Goodbye.